Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Sam Camarena. I'm the manager of the CSU the manager of the CSU Advancement Academy, which is a close partner of the CSU Event Professionals Network. Welcome to this month's on-call meeting focused on the topic of commencement celebrations in a pandemic world. On-call is a monthly series of roundtable meetings focused on various topics and provided again by the CSU Events Professionals Network in partnership with the Advancement Academy. And these meetings are meant to provide a space for events professionals working in higher education to come together and explore trending ideas. Each month's roundtable is focused on a different topic. Next month, you can go ahead and mark your calendars now, is focused on platforms and beyond. It's going to happen on Wednesday, the 10th of February at the usual time of 11:30 to 12:15. During that meeting, we'll explore virtual events platforms such as Mozilla Hub and others. And we're still looking for one or two additional platforms to explore during that session. So if you have a positive experience with one or are curious about another, please let me know. On-call is just one of the value-added benefits of being part of the CSUEPN. We also provide a listserv where you can post questions and get answers from colleagues. If you haven't taken advantage of the listserv, please do so today. And I'm going to be dropping the link right now for these slides. And you're welcome to sign up for the listserv by following the link there on the slide or by emailing me directly. My email is there as well. Also, our digital communications team has created a LinkedIn group and a Facebook page for the CSU EPN. And again, you guys are welcome to join that as well and connect with each other in those modes as well. And finally, before I turn things over to my esteemed colleagues, I'd like to take a moment to encourage you to give in support of the CSU EPN's first ever fundraising campaign, Take 5 to Give 5. Your voluntary contribution of $5 or more will enhance the impactful work of the CSU EPN, including supporting general operations of the network, allowing us to improve and expand our regular offerings, such as this on-call series and our annual conference. In addition, 20% of all of your contribution will be earmarked towards scholarships to cover registration fees for the next CSU EPN annual conference for those campuses in need. I personally made my donation, and the Executive Council leadership team is committed to 100% participation, but we can't do it without you. And now turning to today's topic. This session is going to be very heavy in audience participation and discussion. Our facilitators will lead us through some key topics that were identified through a recent commencement survey that was shared with the CSU EPN listserv. So when invited to do so, we encourage you to contribute to the conversation via audio or through the chat. And our facilitators for today will be joining us from Cal State Long Beach, Brian Miles Garibay. He's the Assistant Director of University Events and Commencement there. From Cal State LA, we have Christina Gubala, who's the Stewardship Manager. And from San Diego State, we have Melissa Hens, Director of Presidential and University Events. So now I want to turn things over to Melissa.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We thought it would be fun to kick off today's session with Mentimeter. We sent a survey out in early December to get a sense of how everyone's commencement planning was going in this continued pandemic and what the areas of concern were and the priorities for your campuses. So this word cloud shows some of the consistent phrases and themes we found from the survey. Not surprisingly, the most common themes were safety, communication, administration, and budget. So let's go ahead and see how we're all feeling today and see if these priorities or concerns are still top of mind. Go ahead and open another browser or use your phone to go to menti.com and enter the code, or you can also use the QR code on the slide and share words or phrases that describe your biggest focus or areas of concern right now. So we'll give a few minutes for everybody to enter their words or phrases. And Sam, do you want to open up the results so we can see it populating? So yes, definitely consistent themes again: safety, budget, uncertainty. I know we're all feeling anxiety and feeling uncertain about direction we're going potentially. Equity, that's a big one. I know we want to make it equitable for class of 2020 and 2021. And memorable. How do we do all this while still making it memorable for our graduates? So now we thought it would be interesting to see what commencement option your campus is currently leaning towards. You may still be looking at multiple options, but go ahead and pick one. So possibly an in-person ceremony, no guests, grads only, in-person with limited guests, hybrid, virtual component with a in-person option as well, and then maybe virtual only. We'll give another minute or so. Looks like the majority so far hybrid. Okay, so yeah, hybrid virtual looks like those are kind of the biggest options people are leaning towards right now. So to help guide today's conversation, we've broken the session out into 3 areas. First, what are your unique challenges? Second, what are your areas of concern, which oftentimes end up being our biggest challenges? And lastly, we wanted to end on a high note and share what opportunities there may be. We've all been through this at least once, and some of you more recently for your fall commencements. So I know we have lessons learned to share that have actually ended up becoming positives for us. And I know we all need to look at these silver linings in order to keep ourselves moving forward. For the format, we'll do a brief recap of the common themes from the survey for each section, and then we'll have 10 minutes of discussion for each. And we really want this to be an opportunity for everybody to share and ask questions. I know we all benefit greatly from this information sharing, especially because we can go back to our administrators and let them know what other campuses are doing. So let's get started with the unique challenges we continue to face with planning commencement during a pandemic. So one of the biggest challenges is the huge number of graduates to commence. I think the majority of us have invited the class of 2020 to come back and participate, whether that's in person or hybrid, or maybe you're to do everything virtually, but you still have to recognize classes. At SDSU, we're looking at multiple options, like many of you, in person, it's only in person, but with limited guests, and a hybrid with multiple virtual ceremonies by college and a possible drive-through component. We recently surveyed our future graduates and we had over 24 responses, which was a 20% response rate. And it's no surprise that 60% were either very likely or somewhat likely to attend an in-person commencement, even with no guests. And that number grew to 81% when you added the possibility of limited guests. And we've also read feedback about not combining the ceremonies for class of 2020 and 2021. And I know many of you have received that same feedback from your graduates. Another big challenge is venue availability. You may not be able to utilize your typical commencement venue for multiple reasons due to COVID-19 restrictions. We typically hold commencement on campus at Viejas Arena, which is indoors, and we definitely know an indoor option would not be approved. So now we're looking at our MLB Stadium, Petco Park, or utilizing venues on campus to have smaller ceremonies, which obviously increases the number of ceremonies we'd need to have, as well as increasing the number of days we'd need to schedule. So we also have multiple public health authority regulations that must be met, city, county, state, campus, CDC, and they all have different approvals, which sometimes contradict each other, and things are changing on the daily. So how do you develop a plan that will meet student expectations and comply with all of these health orders? Safety is a big concern, of course, and Brian will be discussing that more later. Administrators. Some of us have administrators that are very vocal, or some of us are dealing with administrators who are so wrapped up with everything else, they've given very little thought into planning commencement. I know someone mentioned in the survey they have a new administrator who keeps suggesting they do what her former school did, but their campus is very different and it's challenging to make any of her suggestions work. And lastly, budget constraints is another huge challenge. I'm sure this is something felt by all of us. We now have more graduates to recognize. So how do you afford needing additional days or additional venues to accommodate them? Our expenses are increasing overall, and they're increasing during a time when we're being asked to decrease spending as budgets are being scrutinized even more. So now we'll move into the discussion portion. Does anybody have any unique challenges they want to share? How you're currently dealing with these challenges? Would love to hear from some of our campuses. And feel free to add comments in the chat or through audio. And I know I had asked two folks, Gladys from Sac State. Gladys, if you're on, would love to have you share. You're moving from Golden One Stadium off campus, and now you're looking at Hornet Stadium on campus. Do you want to talk more about your plans?
Yes. Hi, Melissa. Hi. Thank you. For us, we're in the same boat as everyone else. We are actually presenting to cabinet tomorrow on 3 separate plans that we basically have developed from beginning to end on how to either implement in-person commencement ceremonies at Hornet Stadium, how we can conduct a drive-through ceremony or drive-through celebration on campus. And the third one would be what we did last time, which was a virtual celebration. It's been challenging because it's time consuming for us to come up with one plan, let alone 3, and they all have to be unique. Different budgets, timeline, vendors at times. So it has been tough the last few months. We received the order from cabinet in October, and we have been plugging away since then to be able to present tomorrow. Our goal is to basically have the plans ready to go. And once our cabinet decides on the best plan for our campus with all approvals in place, then I am hitting the ground running. I guess the hard part is pulling together the logistics, which we have done already. Then we just have to implement. So that gives us a little bit of, I guess, dead time where we're not waiting for cabinet to tell us which way they want to go and then we start planning. We're ahead of the game here. So we're hoping that that will be beneficial when the time comes, and that will allow cabinet a little bit more wiggle room for them to noodle on the plans and then decide which one is best for our campus. And at which time, like I said, we will hit the ground running and implement everything that we have planned. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Gladys, for sharing. We have a comment in the chat. Do you have a time, and this might be for you, Gladys, a time frame to make your decision?
Yes, yesterday.
Time frame for, yeah, right? Yesterday.
Yesterday. No,
are you letting your cabinet know? Are you letting your cabinet know when you need to have a decision, or are you giving them a deadline?
Yeah, cabinet is fully aware that it takes our campus a full year to plan our normal commencement ceremonies at Golden One Center. So they know that the more time I am allowed, the better it would be for our campus, but their hands are tied, just like our hands are tied. So having the 3 plans ready to go, meaning everything from timeline to budget. So I already have the vendors lined up. That would help me. So if they come to me, let's say 2 months before May 21st, or 6 weeks before May 21st, then we will do our best to make it happen. But having the plans already developed is going to help us a lot.
Yeah, and another comment in the chat, timeline for letting students know. I know we're obviously getting emails from our students, our parents are emailing asking when we hope to have a final decision. We said early next year. Our goal was to also tell them by February 1st. There's a comment from Maya from UC Berkeley. So I think, yeah, ideally we're hoping to do the same early February. Looks like UC San Diego as well, February. Anybody else planning? Yeah, same for CSU CI. Yeah, it looks like the majority of us, we really have to let them know next month because, obviously they have to make plans. They have to make travel arrangements if there will be an in-person component. Okay, great. Alyssa from Channel Islands, did you want to share what your campus is doing? I know you're looking at possible drive-in type ceremonies.
Yeah, our commencement committee felt pretty strongly that doing an in-person option was probably not going to be likely. And we didn't do a survey to all of our graduating students, but we did a few focus group surveys, and the majority of our students didn't want to have just a graduate only ceremony. So we landed on a drive-in style, kind of like a drive-in movie style commencement ceremony that's looking like it's going to be over the course of 3 days, 2 ceremonies a day, and we're going to include a ceremony for the class of 2020. Our hope is that we're going to be able to announce early February to our students. We did send communication out to students and on our website that we know that they're eager to know, and we want to be able to hopefully announce either at the end of January or beginning of February. But seeing how things are going right now, I even feel that that's going to be pushed off a little bit. Our cabinet is expecting to get a proposal from me and the committee by end of January. And there's just unique challenges with guidelines on what we might be able to do. And so we did not get county approval yet. I was hoping to meet with them sometime this week, and they've pushed, we're not gonna be able to meet with them until the end of January because of the crisis that we're currently facing with the surge. However, they have allowed drive-in style concerts for Ventura County. They did, I think, starting in summertime and just ended in November. So we feel pretty confident that even if we were in the purple tier, which is what we were in before we went to red, that we would be able to still host a drive-in style, since they did allow those drive-in style concerts to take place during the purple tier time. So a lot of it right now is just planning and finalizing the nitty-gritty, like logistical pieces, finalizing budget, and then hoping Ventura County Public Health will approve our plan. We do have different scenarios. We're looking at about, it's very ambitious, but 430-ish cars can fit in our largest parking lot. But we have plans to go down in capacity. And of course, that increases the number of ceremonies, increases the number of days, and that's a budgetary concern of ours. But we do plan on having those different options to share with our cabinet at the end of this month.
Great, thank you for sharing. Rich, I know you had your hand up. Sorry, you were waiting a little bit longer. Did you want to ask your question?
Mike, it wasn't necessarily a question, but I think the concerns that I have is, I have the same planning scenarios that I think a lot of people are doing. But the issue that I'm having is with what the county is going to approve, and that it's so uncertain. And my county is one of those that are in total disarray and overwhelmed by this COVID crisis. But I'm reluctant to publish anything to graduates saying this is the plan. Mm-hmm. I won't get confirmation if that's the plan probably until, April. So I guess the question that I'm asking for most of our campuses is, if you're going to push something out saying to the graduates, what's the plan? What happens when the plan fails? Or are you posting a backup one as well?
So Rich, at Cal State Fullerton, what we're looking at doing is we're looking at going with an announcement that says we're going to plan a fully virtual commencement and start that planning and start the registration for that, but leave an avenue open that if restrictions change and if we are allowed to pivot to a very limited in person, we will make that pivot and we'll announce that to them hopefully in March. And then we wouldn't have those limited in-person ceremonies until summer. June, possibly July, knowing that we won't be ready to go in Orange County with those different restrictions anytime in May. And so what we would do is have a fully virtual kind of university ceremony with the president's speech and all of that, and the traditional week that we would have commencement in May. And then do that limited in person, limited speaking, no processional, distance contact, all of that. But that way we can tell the students we are planning something, and we can tell them we're still leaving the avenue open should things change, but kind of mitigating their expectations.
Great, thank you. So I know there were a few questions about drive-through commencement, what that would look like, and that's actually a perfect segue into Brian's section. So we'll move into areas of concern, which is very similar to what we're discussing right now, and he'll talk more about safety as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So of the concerns, I mean, really this slide is mainly for those who are considering in-person or some sort of hybrid. I know 18 of you with hybrid and 6 of you with in-person. So as we saw at the beginning of the call, safety is a capstone concern. You know, some of the other ones were the timelines to get your cabinet approval, worried about having to do cancellations and just communicating this with students. So at Cal State Long Beach, we have announced that we are doing a motorcade commencement, is what we've internally called it. A drive-through commencement, drive-by commencement. We're not supposed to call it a drive-by commencement, but these are all synonyms for what we are looking into. And what ours is going to look like is it's going to be essentially completely contactless. They'll come in, we're going to use the marching order system. They will scan, they will go through the drive-through where there will be this finish line, is what we're calling it. And this will be a live stream area with truss structures that sort of portals that they'll drive through. They will scan their name, they will have it read aloud. There will be a lower thirds of their name on the live stream, you know, along with their major and stuff like that. And so this is how we felt we could best kind of compromise our administration not wanting to delay commencement anymore, but also having some sort of physical in-person presence and being able to call their names. And there's also going to be a hybrid portion where the president and provosts and deans will have speeches online, and we're kind of debating on doing that live or not, or presenting it live rather, but it wouldn't be at the event. It would be something that happened prior to the actual drive-through. So I will say we have submitted for approval with county. We have not received that approval. We're in Los Angeles County, but Long Beach has its own public health department. We're kind of taking a risk with this one since we've already announced it, but we have been clear with the students that this is a pending plan. I kind of see some chats coming up. People do not get out of the car in this plan. There's going to be multiple ceremonies. Essentially, we normally have 9 ceremonies in a normal commencement because we have 7 colleges and 2 of the colleges are broken up into 2 ceremonies. But this will essentially be a kind of a continuous motion for 3 days of 8 hours each day. I'm going to open it up for questions. And I'll say this, if these are concerns that you're sharing, you know, things about worrying about canceling last minute, with our plan, we can pivot marching order and we can pivot our production to work for virtual, as I mentioned, but if there are things like cabinet approval and communications and concerns that you have, I'd love to hear them. But also maybe there's not a concern that, or there's a concern that you have that's not on this slide. Please share with us. So let me see you folks. Go ahead and raise your hand or just start talking, and I'd love to hear what you guys think.
If I may share a question from the chat.
Yes.
Sure. So folks are wondering if there might be some equity issues with others without cars. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, you know, this is a momentous event. You know, you could probably get together with a family member or somebody and ride together. But other than that, has your office given any thought to that concern?
Yes, totally. We've thought about this a lot. So we kind of we are inspired with this plan by, I believe it was San Marcos who did it. And we kind of took inspiration in what they did with students without cars. And essentially they gave the option, since this will be a completely live stream event, I mean, students can bring their household with them based on county guidelines, but the rest of their family is going to have to watch the live stream. And so what we do with students without cars is allow them to sort of like submit a photo and still go through the name reading process, but they would have to do it virtually, but to place them in that live stream. Now, if the pandemic gets better by that time, which we plan to do it in May, is we're working with different companies. We're talking about possibly pairing with the city of Long Beach to do a shuttle. Now that would involve us mixing households, but if we're at a place where we're able to do that, then that's something we would do, or even get them like an Uber or Lyft to go through the route. That's something we're also looking into. I see the question about cost. There's no additional cost. I mean, our students pay a graduation fee, which is currently $75, $45. We're transitioning and raising it, so I'm not sure what it is for this year. But so yeah, that's that. Anyone else want to jump on, or let me look at the questions. Someone is asking about, or Liz is asking if for those campuses who are doing virtual commencements, is anyone doing a refund for the application fee? I would love to hear this answer. I don't have an answer for it because we're not doing fully virtual and hopes to avoid that. But
at SDSU, we did do a partial refund for class of 2020 if they don't plan to come back in May 2021. So that was just a partial refund because it's $100 and that covers other costs such as their advising, diploma cover. So we did do a partial refund of $40.
Awesome.
One other question I saw a few times in the chat, and this one's a little interesting, but concerns about alcohol being consumed in the cars. I know that this is kind of a concern in in-person ceremonies. Having been to, having commenced from Long Beach recently, I did see folks drinking in the ceremony. But my thinking is, if you're in a car, you shouldn't be driving. You shouldn't be drinking and driving. Not sure if your team, Brian, has explored ways to make sure that law is safeguarded, or how to mitigate some of those concerns.
I'll be honest, we haven't gotten too far into that. I have a more in-depth planning meeting with our police department or traffic department this next week. But I mean, we will have like 20 different parking officers. A lot of them will be third party. We'll have 20 different third party security guards. We'll have our UPD there, our campus parking, and they'll all be doing traffic and whatnot. And I think it will be definitely a concern to keep an eye out for things like that. That also brings me up to add the point that most of this event will be staffed by third party. So we will not need a large on-campus staff community there, which is good for us. I see some people talking about how Amber says San Jose, they're sending grad kits. They're shipping them through Herf Jones. I think that's a great idea. We aren't planning on doing any grad kits at this time. But yeah.
Also, I was going to chime in and mention that Cal State LA is going to be shipping things as well. We did it last year. We shipped to our students. And the way that we handled the mailing is by hand. We ordered a bunch of envelopes. We stuffed our little packages and made sure that all of the addresses were correct by spot checking them. And then we mailed them out over the course of a week and a half. So we'll probably follow a similar pattern this year.
At SDSU, we're actually going to be mailing face covers, masks to our graduates because we're hoping for some type of, in-person component. So even if that's a drive-through scenario, they could still wear their masks. So we will be sending those out. They're branded SDSU with alumni on them. And we're going to do a mailing in early March, along with information for virtual Grad Fest. So that will drive them to virtual Grad Fest, as well as our commencement website.
Awesome. And my last question to the group here is, for those of you who are possibly considering similar plans with car-based commencements, is your schools planning on continuing to require regalia? And you can just put that in the chat or speak out to it. But that's something that we're kind of going back and forth on, since they will be in the car. We're wondering if maybe we just require the cap, or so if any of you have any feedback on that. But so there are some silver linings to all this. And I'm excited to ask Christina to kind of go over those silver linings with us. And yeah, let's think about the good in this.
Figured we might as well end it on a high note, or as high as possible, considering what we're all facing this commencement season. But first of all, thank you all for being here. My name is Christina Kupala. I'm from Cal State LA, and I want to discuss some of the things that came through our survey regarding silver linings in this experience. At Cal State LA, one thing that we are using to our advantage is the experience from 2020 commencement season. Nothing's ever going to be as chaotic as that was. We had to pivot from 15 ceremonies we were planning in person to doing something online, which ended up being a commemorative website, a video from our president, and then also mailing gifts to our graduates. So because we had to do all of the planning for that within a span of about a month and a half, there was a lot of things that were that we can now refine in 2021. Excuse me, we're probably going to be doing something quite similar in 2021. And so that gives us the advantage of being able to communicate with different departments in advance. We are able to collaborate with other departments as well long in advance, and we can kind of all get on the same page before we start having to draft our messaging to students. One thing our administration does want to emphasize is a focus on equity between class 2021 and class 2020. And so that is why we're sticking to a pretty similar script this time around. But we can also use that to our advantage with budget planning. We saw the things that didn't work last year, and as a consequence, we're able to do things not only efficiently, but also effectively. Knock on wood, of course. We have already started our planning right now, and hopefully by the time that we hit the ground running with it, we'll be able to show a unified front to the students, which is something I'm going to touch on at the very end of my presentation here. One thing that was mentioned in the survey that we sent out was it's easier to secure remote guest speakers. That is definitely one advantage of this pandemic Zoom life that we're all experiencing. Some of our departments at Cal State LA actually took advantage of this last year when sending messages out to their students as a congratulations. So I did hear from one of the respondents that it is going to be something that they plan to do for their virtual commencement ceremonies. And then finally, I want to take a look at a case study regarding improved communication systems. We saw in our first word cloud, the one that was sent around in December, that communication was right at the center of what everyone was focusing on. It was most salient in their minds. So let's take a look at how San Jose State improved their communication systems for the students and how it's working out for them. So I got this information via Erica Greet, who's the Assistant Director of Ceremonies and Special Events at San Jose State. Unfortunately, I don't believe she's on the discussion right now, but if she is, I would love it if she chimed in because this was really inspiring what she wrote. They created a unified communication structure across platforms to make sure that their students not only got the same information and accurate information everywhere that they checked, but also it was reliable and on a schedule. So they knew that if they were checking something from last Tuesday, this Tuesday they were going to get another update. First part of that was they developed a new accessible mobile-friendly website template that, oh, fantastic. I see in the chat that she may be able to jump on shortly. And Amber, if you'd like to chime in at any point, I would love to hear your firsthand account of any of this. But touching upon the points here, they created the new website. everyone in the university had the ability to edit this website in the accessible and mobile-friendly manner, unifying the face of how information was communicated. They developed a commencement-focused Instagram account and really focused on the growth of it too. Of course, Instagram is a very easy way to communicate with students, and having the force of the special events and director of ceremonies and their department behind it really adds to the gravitas of that in communicating reliable messaging. They set up an email, a frequent email schedule that went out 2 times per week leading up to it, and then reduced down to once a week as they got closer. And then a marching order was used. The marching order of the organization was used to send out text deadline reminders to students as well. Finally, what I think was most inspiring is they had cross-departmental collaboration when it came to the communication with students. So not only was everybody on the inside on the same page, but also no matter where the students chose to check, they would be getting the same responses. So with that, Amber, if you'd like to chime in on any of these things that seem to work for you, I would love to hear about it.
Sure, thank you. Ultimately, it did work really well. We've got a survey out going out to the students to just kind of gauge, the communications aspect of it. But the one thing that really worked well is that after each email went out, that communication was put onto the website so that they could see an archive of communications that have gone out. So if they missed one by any chance, they were able to go back and read through. And then the Instagram account, we've grown to over 2,000 followers at this point. So it's absolutely amazing. And then the last thing that we did is we did a virtual grad fest where we, had actually developed a video of what to expect, and that went up on the website. And then also we played that video during grad fest, and then had our vendors, and then we had the registrar and the GAPE office. They were on the grad fest, the virtual grad fest as well. And so we had question and answer, and that actually was recorded and then put up on the website for students to view. So yeah,
So
it worked out
inspiring.
well.
I'm curious about how long this process took you from the inception of the idea to the approval from administration to actually rolling it all out. And did you roll it all out in one piece, or did you do it all bit by bit?
So we started working on it after spring 2020 for the most part, and just trying to get it, together, because we did have a December ceremony, or we had a December graduation celebration. So we started working on it right after the spring, and we were able to get approval pretty quickly on the different elements, and then we just kind of had to tack them into the timeline.
This is really inspiring, and I really appreciate your insight into it. Were there any stumbling blocks that y'all faced as you were trying to pitch the idea?
So there was some concern when we were using marching order as a communication device, because they were afraid that some of that was going to go into spam. So we did actually use marching order, but we also used our on-campus.
I fear we may have lost you.
All right. Well, Amber joins us. Maybe maybe we can return to some of the other silver linings that came out of the recent commencement seasons.
Yes, thank you, Sam. And if anyone wants to chime in about anything that's been exciting, inspiring, unexpectedly positive, I would love to hear about it. I know these positive silver linings are few and far between these days, but definitely appreciate a success story in this regard. And thank you, San Jose State, for sharing it with us. I also did want to throw it out there that if anything comes up along the way, something that's really been working out for you, it would be wonderful to have a means of sharing that with us as well. Because as I mentioned before, reading through these survey responses, I found this case study to be really fascinating and inspiring. And I think any momentum that we can pick up going into this commencement season is going to be really helpful for everybody. So perhaps we can figure out a way to keep those positive communications open.
I have
And
a weird silver lining for you,
love to
Christina.
hear about it.
It has been so much easier to meet with people on campus about commencement. Like, I think it's added some urgency, even more so than before, and people's schedules are a little more malleable with the virtual life, and I think that has been one way. I think we've met with parts of the campus and even vendors that we wouldn't have necessarily had we not, and I think that's been helpful.
I'm also curious if folks maybe had kind of a strategic planning around commencement and what are really the outcomes, because I feel like when there was these big in-person ceremonies, the focus was like so much on getting all these people in there, getting X number of graduates through, and the regalia and the speakers and the platforms, that I think at some point we got a little bit away from what these events were supposed to be on, really honoring our graduates, honoring their ceremonies, and providing a unique moment for them and their families to recognize the event. And I feel, even, they look all kinds of different ways now, virtual, hybrid, in a car, out of a car, with a COVID test, without a COVID test. But I think if nonetheless we have, that key moment there where we honor our graduates, we provide a special moment for them. We have something that their families, a memento that or recording that their families have of the event, that market. I feel like that's a successful commencement graduation. Through everything, I feel like this might have been a good time for folks that work in these ceremonies to really come back to what are the real outcomes we want to get out of a successful commencement ceremony. My 2 cents.
I would agree with you. Our focus for our committee has completely been about how do we make this memorable for the students, and even thinking through a ceremony portion of our drive-in commencement, we're cutting out all the fluff, really. We're like, what is absolutely necessary, because we don't want students and their families to be sitting in their car for like 3 hours, which is what our normal in-person one ceremony is, roughly about 2.5 to 3 hours. So the silver lining is we get to cut out all that extra stuff and really focus on what our students really want to hear, and what they're telling us, our student representatives that sit on our committee, and the focus groups that they've had, what are they looking to get out of it? And that's really how we're tailoring, how we're putting this all together, is trying to keep students top of mind. And I like that, cutting out the fluff.
One interesting item that got dropped in the chat, folks are wondering if anybody's organizing celebrations or parties outside of the commencement, regalia, formal piece, because that sounds like a nice event too. I know that, back when things were in person, there was, 3 different types of cultural commencements, and departments would have like little events for their respective graduates and hooding ceremonies and things like that. Curious to see what some of those look like now, or if they're still happening, which I posed to the group to get feedback. Maya just shared about the Minecraft celebration, because I think somebody replicated the Berkeley campus to some scary detail on Minecraft. So that's nice.
Very much so, and they're planning on doing it again this year. They're very excited.
That's
fantastic.
incredible.
That'll be a supplementary activity, hopefully.
These are the things that make this difficult time magical in small ways. I believe we are coming to the end of our discussion here. So I wanted to throw it back to Sam and thank everyone for everything that they contributed, both in our survey and then here today as well. Sam?
Sure. And before I jump into bidding everybody goodbye, I just want to remind everyone to save their chat. We saw a lot of really good feedback from our colleagues on there, lots of useful links. So please don't leave the meeting without saving that to your computer. And with that, I just want to remind everybody of the February on-call on platforms and beyond. I've already received a couple suggestions in the chat for additional platforms to explore in that on-call meeting. So look forward to that as well. And of course, if you haven't already, please join our Facebook group and or our LinkedIn group, and of course our listserv, where we see the most of our activity of the group here connecting and asking each other questions. And again, if you have, please take 5 minutes to give $5 in support of all the great work that the CSUEPN does, and continue to enhance the great work that we do as well. And with that, thank you all so much for logging on today and contributing your thoughts and your experiences. Have a great rest of the day and the rest of the week, and we'll see you all next month.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, thank you.